Hello and welcome to UC Today. My name is Kieran and today's session is the big UC update for Pure IP. I'm delighted to be joined by Ian Guest, Marketing Director of Pure IP. Ian, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Kieran.
Before we explore Pure IP's 2024, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself, Ian, and the work you do with Pure IP?
Yeah, so as you rightly say, I'm the marketing director here, so look after all of the marketing activities across the globe. That's across all of our sort of PSTN and voice managed service portfolio.
Grand. And what would you say have been some of the highlights from Pure IP's 2023 before we move on to what you guys have planned for next year?
Well, it's been a big year for us because we were acquired back in June by BCM1. So that's obviously quite a significant event for us. I'm pleased to say that it hasn't really changed a great deal. We're still providing the same old services. We have a bigger footprint and a well-established business behind us now in the US, which I think is great. It helps us to deliver more services to the US customer base. So I think that's probably been the biggest one from a business point of view. I think when we start looking at the market changes and what we're seeing from a solution point of view, certainly, we've seen an increase in the Teams and WebEx business. To be fair, with Teams, very much Operator Connect is become the de facto standard for us. So a lot of the deployments, and we're doing roughly around about sort of 12 to 15 a month, are Operator Connect. It's not saying that's the end of direct routing, because direct routing certainly still has its place in there. So still a big percentage of our business is doing Teams. But we're seeing a lot more of the market moving towards these sort of cloud-based platforms. It was pushed a little bit from a COVID point of view for everybody jumping on them to actually be able to work and collaborate remotely. But actually now we're starting to see that uptake in terms of adding the voice on. So it's still around about 4 or 5% of the market is gone to cloud voiced with a Teams perspective or a Microsoft perspective on it. So there's still plenty of scope there, but I think that it's becoming a good and easy discussion for people to do. Is rather than should we do it, it's like when are we doing it?
Perfect. And looking ahead, what kind of products and features can customer expect from Pure IP in 2024?
Yes, well, I think there's a lot of how do we refine and improve what we've got. So I think when we break this down, there's probably 3 or 4 different areas that we're looking at. The one is how we help customers migrate to the voice cloud platforms. As I say, there's 4 or 5% of users that use Teams are actually using the voice aspect. So there's a big upsell opportunity there, and there's a lot of willingness and from customers to do that. But there's a few barriers that they need to consider in terms of some of the migration processes. So how do we help them automate that process and make it smoother and easier? So that's one of the things we're looking at in the new year. We've already got some automation tools in place to help fast track some of that process, but it's how do we do more? So I think that's one aspect. Another aspect that we're looking at, and we'll be introducing some solutions for in 2024, is the mobile aspect. You've got a lot of sort of mobile workers, you've got a lot of frontline workers. So one of my frontline workers, we tend to use that phrase quite openly, but actually what we're talking about there is factory floor staff, warehouse staff, retail people. So people that are actually out and about at the coalface, if you like, doing the operational stuff. So how do we help them actually get connected? So how do we build a solution around those workers and help unblock that as an issue for existing customers? I think the knowledge worker is easy. Most of those will use the native voice features that you get within the platform, but it's then having a look at these others where you need to get them connected in slightly different ways. So you can deliver a full solution around sort of one platform and help consolidate and unify that for the customers. So I think they're probably the two big areas for us that we're looking at, and you'll see solutions of those coming through. And I think there's as well, it's not necessarily a solution, but it's the education part as well. I think it's recognizing that we're talking a lot about futures, about innovation. And certainly when you look at the WebExes and the Cisco's and the Microsoft's platforms, we're talking about a very future type story. Actually, what we need to recognize is that a lot of the organizations are still challenged with some of their legacy environments, particularly the multinationals and the multi-site organizations, which we deal a lot with. They're challenged with how they overcome some of the more logistical challenges moving it within the organization. So it's helping them not just with the migration technically, but helping them with an educational process as well of how they move from A to B. And I think probably the last pillar which we're looking at, and I think we're keeping a watching eye on, is how sort of things like Copilot and AI are going to affect the marketplace. So we're keeping a brief look on this. I think there's lots of ideas and concepts, and Copilot's out there now, so you can have a little bit of a play with it. But I think there's more features to come with that. And I think it's how do we then as vendors help organizations optimize that? And what does it mean to them as a business? How is it going to add value to them? So there's a sort of a technical element to that and an educational element. So I think it's still early days, but we're going to see a lot more of that next year.
Perfect. Yeah, that's a very comprehensive perception of things. I think it's a really good point where you're saying it's not just about the tech side of the digital transformations as everyone's getting ready for the big switch off in a couple of years. It's also about making sure these organizations are skilled enough to leverage the new technology effectively. I think that's a really, really perceptive point. I think that's all we've got time for today, but it's been a really good session. So thank you, Ian, for being here today.
No problem. Thanks for having me, Kieran.
And if you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share on social media, and we'll see you next time. I've been Kieran Devlin of UC Today. Thanks for watching.